Okay, I'm letting people in now. Okay, here we go.
All right.
And I like it to be so, you see how you see the number 9 gong?
Yeah.
And you?
So okay.
All right. Sound good?
Yeah. All right.
All right, so here we go. And we are getting rid of the waiting room. Here we go.
Oh, there it is over there. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
You can move over
Yeah,
a
there
little.
it is. A little bit
All
like
right,
that.
so we're admitting all.
We have people. Look at this.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
So we're going to do a quick check here. I'm going to put everyone on, here's gallery mode so you can see everyone. We've got our names here. It's Colt. Hi, Colt. We've got Karen, Amrita, Naoka, and Daniel.
Oh, welcome.
All right.
Well, that's good. We got somebody to talk with.
So we are going to do a quick audio check. I want to make sure you can hear Don. Don, say your name.
Can you hear me? Don. You want
Raise
to come
your
and
thumb
sit
if you can
down?
hear. Everyone can hear? Okay, fantastic. All right. I'm going to make sure that the volume is on the highest portion. Here we go. All right. Well, we had a little bit of a late start today, not too bad, and we will try to be better for the ensuing sessions. My name is Yael Shafir. I am Don's daughter. I'm going to be here as much as I can to help moderate and make sure things are flowing in this Zoom land that we're living in. So I just want to thank you all for coming. Don,
Thank you. Thank you.
take it away.
Well, first of all, I really like questions. It doesn't even have to be a good question. Any question will do. I like them so much. So if you think of anything you want to ask, then we'll throw it open to our group here, and we can all give our, viewpoint on it. That would be very, very healthy. Eh? What do you think? Yes? No? Okay, all right. Yeah. What am I interested in these days? Well, I wanted to have something that is very practical for the future Gong masters that are your students and my students and on and on and on. A way to dive deeper into what's behind the Gong and how we might use the Gong in this age now, which is the age of where the computers are developing more human-like or brain-like qualities. And so, in a sense, that we're keeping up with that. And we do that through developing the connections in the prefrontal cortex of our brains, mainly, although it is first all over the brain. And that new third eye, we call it, or the higher third eye, or this third eye is also an A sharp, given in music. A is usually given to our third eyes, isn't it? But B is at the top. So A sharp would be right at about the hairline here. It's called the higher cerebral cortex. And this is where the new third eye, or third ear, if you want to, is being developed as we sit here. So I looked at the Gong and I realized that the gifts we're given are the numbers 1 through 9, /O, if you like, O through 9. And so way back in the early days, An Enneagram was discovered in Russia, I believe, by a sensory researcher. And so we took the Enneagram, the number nine, put it on the face of the gong. Not that we needed it, we doesn't really need it, because as we play the gong, we can just imagine that one is here, two is there, three is there, all the way down like a clock face. Right.
You know, there's a buzzing going on, so I'm just wondering, Naoka, can you go on mute for a minute? Perfect, thank you. So, don't worry about it. We've got, thank you, Daniel, for talking about the hiss. Okay, great, fantastic. So definitely you can also use the chat box, but go ahead, sorry about that.
That's all right, it's good.
It's good.
So, number 9 is the number of the gong. 4 nines is the 36 years of age, which is the age given to humanity as the most likely time to get cosmic consciousness or to develop the spiritual brain. In the meantime, these brain cells begin to form, the synapses begin to grow. They are not fed. If they were fed, they remain healthy connections, then of course there would be faster evolution, we call it transvolution, quantum shifting going on. So in order to do that, if you go up to the gong, just everybody has a gong, I take it here. Yeah? So anybody doesn't have a gong? All right, so when we go to play a gong, the magic of playing is that you go up there and you begin to play, and half the time your eyes are closing, half the time they're half open, half the
سيناريو أو هذه القصة مبنية.
It's okay. So we're going to just ask everyone to be on mute until you have a question, put it in the chat box or raise your hand. All right, fantastic. Keep going.
You okay? Are you all right? So far, so good. All right. So the theory is that as the computers begin to be more human-like and more like, they can't match our brains, but they're trying their best to become more human than we are in that sense. So, but we have to be able to develop our prefrontal cortex. Homo luminous spiritualis, I call it the higher chakra here. And we can do that by simply playing the irrational fractions that make up the universe and which are considered to be, junk. They go on forever and ever, never repeat themselves. There's so many of them, it baffles the mind. But however, for us, might lead us into playing the gong in a certain way that we wouldn't have thought of, or maybe we wouldn't have reached if we played the gong improvisationally for 20 years. You're going to find some strokes that fit into these irrational fractions, but only the gong knows where, So, but here we can take them and use them for our music sheets, because they don't really give music sheets for gong players and so forth. So the Enneaphone or the Enneagram is superimposed on the face of the gong, gives us an idea of doing that. So I think that this is an area of study that is very important. Number one, it's very important for people who are writing songs. Because you think of all the songs, the beautiful melodies ever written, you see, that we are familiar with. But it's only a small portion of the potential number of songs, or if we call them lyrics, written for a melody. So how do we find these? How do we take them out of the unknown and make them where they're tangible and that they can actually be, we can put them together in a tone alchemy. that would have a certain effect upon the being. Maybe not here, but certainly on certain levels that we know not of, because it's actually pure research and we don't know what we're looking for when we're playing Gong until we find it and we go, oh, that was cool. So we have to take the secrets out of the Gong and play them. Well, that's a lot of real potential there. But however, we also need to be able to play in concert together. Usually when we have our concerts, we all get up, we turn our back to the audience because we're used to playing up close and personal with our gongs. And nobody can see the beautiful dance steps that you're playing with the gong because your back is covering it all up. And then, of course, then we adjust and we play on the sides so that people can see where we're hitting it, etc., like that. But we're all playing some unknown series of numbers in the Ennea phone face of the gong, and we don't know what it is. So this would be the new, you ask why, well, why do that when we're playing the gong like this here is perfectly all right, yeah? Well, however, there are some things that we don't know what we're looking for until we find it. But since number 9 is the number of the gong and 9 is the number of samadhi and completion, and it's pretty universal, that we can now go ahead and play a second. In other words, if I want you to, let's say one of you are playing phi, the other one is playing pi, the other one is playing E, Euler's constant, another one is playing this one or that one. Now, all of a sudden, we have our sheet music, and if we could read it easily, we could then just make our strokes according to the formula that we're reading from our Gong sheet music, so to speak. So I think that this is a step in the right direction now with the way things are. And so the book is really to be a workbook for people that they'll be able to create their own melodies, their own, and then of course the Shruti songs. This is so important to do because it's the same thing. So how do you find the Shruti song and match them up with the melody that you find in one of the irrational fractions, whatever it might be? Only so far that we can repeat it, because if you go up and jam on the gong, what happens? Well, the only way you would know what formula that your subconscious was leading you to on the gong would be to videotape it and then play it back slowly and mark down where I hit 1, 4, 7, 8 to find out your own travels on the face of the gong like that. And then you would have the sheet music, and then you could reproduce it if you'd like to, like that. Well, this is one thing to do, but what is the most important thing that we've learned as beginners? It would be that to be able to create summation tones and reduction tones when we play. That means that what we're listening for is not necessarily what another musician would be looking for. We're listening to hear the progeny, the tone progeny, the children of these interlocking tones. We do have one thing that we aim for is that if we're going to hit here and hit here, we want to hit them at the same volume, the same amplitude, so that when tones are of the same amplitude, they more than likely will mate and produce reduction tones, summation tones, and we'll be able to hear the so-called bouquet of the living tone multiplying in the acoustical space. So this is why we would do it. We'd be making this unconscious conscious. And what happens then, we don't know. All we know that it's it's like Star Trek, as we go where no other gong players dares to go. So we go into that direction. To be able to encourage now the gong players around the world, we're now becoming rather thick in the world today, but not thick in terms of there's too many of us. I don't know if that's possible. But we have now, say, 95 countries in the world where there are people playing the gong. And they are actually using the gong in order to help other people shift their minds into more triadic thinking, more of an expanded awareness, so that they can get out of their linear karmic patterns in their life. So we have all these things. Now, of course, we know that if you know nothing, you're a Buddhist, they say. If you know nothing, it's okay. Just become a channel. And then you just follow certain guidelines of being a channel. But if you're playing gong in an orchestra of some nature, which we hope in the future we'll be able to do, we can create an event where all the gong players would be playing a pattern that is, of course, you can't ever do it the same way twice. So it's a pattern that is like leads you down the yellow brick road where you're going. So this is the idea, the next step to do. So the book is simply some of the major irrational fractions that make up the universe that the scientists cut off to use them to be like 1.618 instead of 03398. So we'll take, but we have got an advantage is that we can take any of those, what we call splices, DNA splices out of these irrational fractions that go in and use them for our melody that we're going to use. And we can do it on a shruti box with keys. Those of you who play musical instruments can do it with the trumpet, the trombone, saxophone, whatever it is. You can now translate these patterns into melodies, if you so like. All right, so that's a talk. And I just would like to leave it open as you might ask questions, and we can toss it around a little bit. I hope, was that clear okay?
Well, I think let's start with, I'll moderate some of the chat room in terms of, do we have any questions? There's also, you know, if you want to use the reaction buttons to ask questions. I guess you dived right in, and I'm not sure, considering this is introduction.
Well, you see, this is the problem,
How many-
isn't it? Because the thing is always like that. We say the same thing over and over and over. I don't know how many times I've just said what I've said. But then all of a sudden you realize, well, that's your dharma karma. So you go ahead and you say the same thing. Every time you say it again, you say it in a little different way, a different emphasis, but to pass it on. So that if you begin to be saying these things to people, then you have to keep saying them, because every time you say them, people are going to see into it something else that they maybe didn't see before. So this is this is an adventure of consciousness.
So I guess I would ask, can everyone raise their hand or go like this? Like this, if you're familiar with the Enneagram, you know what the Enneagram is? Thumbs up. Okay, so let's start with that.
Right.
That we might have to repeat, they might have to go back and watch this whole recording again after we discuss the basic of what is the Enneagram.
Mm-hmm. All right. It's just a pattern to follow on the gong. Usually when we play the gong, we go to the most resonant part of the gong, the sweet spots, we call it. And we hit it there because that gives us more like clay to mold than hitting something where there isn't that much. So we're really looking for the belly, the bouquet, so that is called a living bouquet. And if you hit the gong twice, the same volume, they tend to meet together and create progeny. And that is how what we hear is so beautiful in the gong. When we do a usual song, like a church song, Amazing Grace, it's a melody like this. And somewhere that melody already exists. It was just fished out of the blue. But there are many other melodies too. And what we're simply doing is we're listening to the inner music that is the result of resultant tones. That draws us in to the Om. But on the other hand, if we're playing another kind of an instrument that doesn't emphasize total resonance as the gong does, then you're going to be playing melodies. So the irrational fractions that make up the unseen universe that we live in, and then we call that junk DNA, that we would begin to go fishing and pull out of it, maybe, and here we've got, this is this constant here. I wonder what it sounds like on the gong. But maybe I may go to the shruti box or the piano or the keyboard, and I'll just translate those numbers into familiar notes of our C, D, E, F, G, A, B. And I will play those on the keyboard so I can hear the melody. Because when I play it on the gong, even though I'm hitting the numbers on the gong itself, it's a different system, so that what I'm really hearing is tone progeny, or that which gives birth through the living tones coming out of the gong. So we work with both these in our modern life now. So gong players, you need to be able to be both, because you're going to be playing with musicians. Once you start playing the gong, all of a sudden, oh my God, come play the gong, and they're all musicians, and we're not musicians. And all of a sudden, we need to have at least an inkling, so that when we go to play, that we won't upset them in any way. What's that?
So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to just share my screen, and it's a messy screen, so apologies about that. I'll clean it up for next session. How's that? One second, I'm pulling up what I just dropped. It's the Enneagram, okay? Here we go.
Yeah, anything that we say, or especially with words, it's so wonderful. You can Google it and come up with the latest and the greatest definition for us.
Here we go. Good times. Here we go. The fourth way, share the screen.
Anyway, but it'd be very good if you will just kind of do some investigative reporting next time we get together to tell us what you found and discovered. And
I'm still going to try this. We'll figure it out. Hold on.
So that's what it's all going to be about. It's going to be like breaking the barriers that we don't even know about. And this is going to be, like Star Trek Enterprise in a way. We're going to go into worlds of numbers. There is a thought that maybe how the flying saucers fly. They do it by this method.
Yay, I got it. Sorry for the delay. Thank you for your patience. Here we go. So this is the shape of the Enneagram. And as you can see, it's utilizing the cardinal numbers, which are 1 through 9, which are used in every culture and every tradition. And it's used in many different patternings, from psychiatry, psychology, the 9 personalities. If you think about being pregnant, the 9 cycle of the 9 months of pregnancy, in many different, pretty much every situation, you can ascribe an Enneagrammic template to that situation, which is very interesting, especially in terms of where exactly it came from. So, you know, you can always Google and Wikipedia it. Also on the course, the Playing by Numbers, we deep dive into all of these things as well. And that's the plan for the next 6 weeks or 6 sessions, is to dive deep. And so you'll have access to
all right,
this
trivia.
as well.
Trivia is very important to us as well. Which beetle was the number 9 most closely associated with in a song?
Which Beatle?
Yeah.
John Lennon?
John, Ringo, George, or what's his name? Paul.
John.
John?
Yes.
We say John.
Yeah. So whoever wrote the song, number 9, number 9, number 9, you know who that was?
No.
You don't know that song?
John.
Anyone?
John. He got it. John wrote this song.
Okay.
John Lennon, number 9, number 9. And
Number
so
9.
there are 3 9s. Yeah. So actually, there's 4 9s. All right, so trivia, yeah.
So the other question is, you discussed the irrational fractions.
Yes. Well, you know, they've told you you're acting irrational. Do not act irrational. So what they've done is that they've closed the door on irrationals. You see, it's useless. It's like spaghetti. It's like here, but really it is the akasha. These fractions make up the akasha, or the higher worlds. So how do you get a closeness to it? How do you become familiar with it? How do you become one with it? This is the secret, and it's especially given to us gong players, because there's really no other musician that we know of that is limited as we are to hitting a disc. You see, so, and we say that the universe is inside of that disc, so we explored that. Maybe we go where no other gong players have gone before. Maybe.
So I'll just stop us here, and I'll just opening it up again. Yes, no, shaking, all of that works. How many of you are familiar with sacred geometry, pi, phi, Euler's constant, the irrational fractions? No, kind of, no, kind of. Okay, so we're getting a lot of kind ofs. So I feel like you've now jumped ahead again.
Well, I'll tell
Can
you
we
what.
go back?
Okay. What it is, if you take in a note and say, well, I don't know what the heck you're talking about, you can gongle it right away. And while it's fresh, and you can begin, we don't have any real teachers anymore, because the computer is here. And so you can use that to teach yourself. So this is put it to work and look up words that you don't understand. And if you have questions about something, if you see the other people that are tuned in with us, our little group here, you can always contact each other and talk about this or that or the other thing, if you like, as well, so we can cross-fertilize. So that's what I'm just saying. So that whatever it is, we always start with what's happening now. Let me ask you a question too, because we need to also know about how many people have studied all the different strokes of the gong and their psychological effects.
No, yes, no.
All right, so this is another adventure in consciousness. Whoa, yes. So you'll find that all of these things are opening up. You don't know what to go for because it's all so juicy. So you just, okay, what's the most convenient that I'll deal with now. I'll Google it, whatever it is, or I'll call one of my friends up and I'll say, what do you think about this? So I'd like to see that more of that interaction going on.
So one of the topics, the primary topic of this succession series you're doing with IYI is this course that you've been teaching for the last couple of years. And it's playing by the numbers. So yes, you'll discuss strokes and the basis of
Well, it's
playing.
the snake swallowing its tail, yes? That here we're talking about playing by the numbers, which only little children do, to learn something by color or by sound. All of a sudden here, we're the other end of the snake, and we are also learning by the numbers. But the numbers that we're learning, that we knew when we were just very young, now have a totally different aspect to them. So this is kind of like that.
So taking the Enneagram template and putting it on the gong, you're now creating
like that, like this one.
Let's see.
We left it on there. It doesn't hurt the gong sound at all. But therefore, this will get your hand-eye coordination going. The most important thing now that we can do to pass on to the new gong players that are going to be your students is that they will be able to come and learn the strokes, of course. But one thing that we have, what is the sound of one hand gonging? That is, we stole that, didn't we? One hand clapping is really what it was about. It was a Zen koan. But we have our own koan, the sound of one hand gonging. So in the beginning, and the gong will make you more ambidextrous, which gives you more brain wiggle room. So if you're playing the gong, let's say I'm playing the gong with my right hand, I'm going 1, 4, 2, 8, 5, 7, 3, 6, 9, 9, 6, 3, and playing these patterns. With the other hand, what do I do with it? So this other hand is the hand that's used for peace. It is also the hand that is the prana comes out of the number, this is called the number 9 chakra. I guess the soles of the feet and palms of your hand. That the chi comes out of this, or the Reiki, if you like, comes out of the palms of the hand. So we can always, when we're playing, hold our hand up, activate it, and send the prana out into in the sound of a ray from this hand here. But what we really would like to do is to begin to develop different mudras. If you're going to hold this up or like this or like that, all the different mudras then modify the energy of the Om empowers it to, as mudras do, they carry a certain of their own mudra magic with them. So this is something important in one hand gonging. But all the other things are very important as well. So we would like to try to squeeze everything in, please everybody, because we've got all the different strokes. We also have playing with your back to the gong. There are so many different ways to the fun of finding out these things. Well, for me, it has been wonderful to share that. So that would be added into as well. So even though, let's say that you're new to it, and rather than thinking just, well, what's a newbie like me taking a workshop that is for advanced players? This is the first thing you have to get rid of, because we're all beginners. And this is one of the things we learn when we pass any knowledge on to somebody else, even if it's knowledge we're passing on year after year, that it's fresh water, because it will cause us to find new ahas that we haven't looked at before, and then we can pass those on. Passing that on is called the philosopher's stone, or the alchemist tone, we call it. We pass it on to other people. And this is sort of, we do it as servants of humanity. Okay, so we could talk all about these things and toss them around as we want to. And whether you are already an advanced teacher or you're a very beginner and don't have a gong, it's fine, because the tail of the snake and the head of the snake becomes like here. We can say it like that. So this is the information. And if it's stuff you've heard before, then why is it important? It's simply because the more times you hear it, the more you rephrase it, make it your own, and the more lucky your students will be, because you'll be able to share that with them. Okay. And Shruti Singh is a very important part of it too, and I'd like to work with people on that, because there's something that we call spiritual free jazz that really, it's got a lot to do with the opening of this chakra, the throat, and sending not only the sonal ray up into the brain, but also into the auditorium, like that. So that's all the chemistry, the alchemy that we're working with. And for me, it's always exciting, okay, to get another version. So don't, because of your lack of gonging and hanging out in that area, don't let that stop you, okay? Go ahead and jump in, and we'll swim together, okay?
Can you discuss why irrational fractions are a useful tool for learning how to play the gong, playing the gong, elevating,
Well,
using it
yes, I think
for
so.
moving?
My dad told me when I was young, Donald, you're going to turn out to be good for nothing. So, and here I am, I've turned out to be good for nothing. And that nothingness in the gong is the thing that I'm always searching for. It's like being in going into a frontier and searching to discover things. So in that sense, I made it my life work. So, and this nothingness is also ultimately the Buddha who put the Tai Loi on, see the gong behind me there, for those of you who are new, there it is right there. Well, that's Tai Loi at the bottom. And we understand that that is a secret message. It's the spiritualization of the material world. When we play the gong, we know it's a connecting of heaven on earth together. But it's also the open sesame, the open gateway into a world of summation and reduction tones that that we're entering into. So what else did you want?
I'm just wondering, the irrational fraction phi, which is also known as the golden ratio, the golden mean. Can you just raise your hand if you are, do you use it in your own practice? Have you used it in your life at all? Are you aware of it? It's like yes, we do have someone. Karen, a lot of no's, and Colt, yes. So, Karen, how do you feel about unmuting and sharing a little bit about what you know about the number phi and the golden ratio?
Well, I don't know much, but I know that the gong sound emanates from the gong of the golden ratio, and it's the path of least resistance and the strongest path in nature. We find in architects use it in buildings, and nature uses. You can find it in nature everywhere. You can find it in snails and plants, and I believe it resonates with number 5, and it's a very spiritual number.
Thank you, Karen. And Colt, do you mind unmuting? And Karen, would you please mute?
Yeah, of course.
I don't really have much more to add to it, other than that I used it in a the golden ratio for book designing for covers. But I don't do that anymore. So, but that's all. I don't really have much more to add.
So
I can share something.
Oh, okay. So we have a resident gong master visiting us here in Los Angeles from San Antonio. So Michael, come on in, take my seat and give us a.
Hello. I first learned about the golden ratio from Disney, and I think it was Donald Duck and Mickey Mouse. They had this interaction, and when I saw that, I'm doing drum circles, so drum circle facilitation, and how I found it really interesting is how many, when we do concentric circles at a drum circle, we might have 50 people. Instead of putting 50 people in one big circle, we bring them into concentric circles. So if I start an inner circle with 8, then I just get my calculator out and I multiply that by 1.6, and that gives me the number for the second row of people. And then I do the same thing for the third row of people. So why I do this is because it just really works. If you think of the petals of the rose, you know, it starts with the 1 and then comes out to the, it just naturally, it works in flowers, and it works in drum circles. So that's how I use it practically. When you ask the question, it was like, gosh, I've been using that as a multiplier for like 20 years. So and I can appreciate the book design also, that you use it in the design of covers. So we're using it whether we think of it or not, perhaps. And if you're doing concentric circles, or you're bringing a lot of people together, maybe a gong bath, and you're doing concentric circles around the inner, you know, how many yoga mats can you put on the second row? How many yoga mats can you put on the third row? And use that 1.6 and you got it.
Yeah.
So phi is actually useful in real life. Apparently, you didn't even know that. You said irrational numbers were irrational.
Now, for the human body, there's been a debate with gong playing since I can remember about head or feet. What do you put towards the gong? And there's a different rationale for each one of them. But the reason why it may not be the right argument is because 2.5 fingers below your navel point, talking in the best of our life, I guess, is the little Manipura sac that heats up the spine. So when the Kundalini rises with that. This same 1.6 ratio from the feet to the navel point, from the navel point to the head, if you are turning it around, reversing it from the top of the head, what would be the phi ratio, or where would it be? Here, and then there. So you just flips around like this. So you can see the phi ratio everywhere that you look. And you can begin to decide, well, should I put my feet or do I head towards the gong? Anybody ever have to figure that one out? And what did you say? Ask to unmute. Takapaga. Hello. My engineer left.
Well, I've just unmuted.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
I'm very kind of new to this. I've been doing gong bars since August. I suggest that people put their head towards the gong because of the flow that moves through them. Whether that's right or wrong, I don't know. People sometimes prefer to have their feet towards the gong. Some people prefer to have their head towards the gong. But if they ask me, I think head towards the gong for the flow.
You know, that's an interesting thing, and we can use that rationale, I think, at times. But the idea is that if you go to a temple, you're not supposed to put your feet towards the altar. Interesting, isn't it? Yeah. And so a lot of the gong players say, well, the gong's the altar, like that. So, but for us who are more liberal troublemakers, we do it both ways, and they also do it with the fetal position. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The fetal position is a great way to listen as well as lying on the stomach. In fact, usually when I have people, I don't know, maybe you do the same, when people come to the gong bath or the session, and we do this here, we let them be free to lie however they want to lie. Because that also has a good positive thing too. What is the positive benefits of letting, we call sleeping dogs lie? How do you let them just however they would like to sit up on anywhere? Do you do that, or do we do it? Maybe we do it. Sometimes I do it strictly. Sometimes I'm kind of very loose. You know? How about you?
I give the option.
Options. Yeah.
Yeah, like I'll have cushions. If cushions are available, so if people can't lay down, then they can at least sit on the floor or sit, their back to the wall or something like that.
Hmm. People who are in the front, they naturally gravitate to the front row. Why? Well, we always be at the feet of the guru, I guess. But the idea is that people go there. That means the sound is louder. The disintegration of the molecules of the gong are stronger, the heat coming out of it. So you kind of like want to get up close and personal as though you were playing it yourself. And the other people they go to the back of the room and they want to hear the gong in that way. It's almost like a lot of people who come, they're kind of afraid of the gong, intimidated in a little way, so they stay at the door or the exit. So that is why we do the handheld gong, because they can't escape. Even though they're not real up close and personal with the big gong, you take the little gong to them and give them the up close and personal where they are. Because each of those distances has a certain effect upon the astral body and the body itself, yeah? And the psychology. So it gives us a lot of options. We say you could do no wrong when you play the gong. Oh, that's almost true. Anybody else want to chime in with thoughts? Well, anyway, it's a great adventure of consciousness that we are going into, and we just won't be doing by the numbers. We also will be talking about performance, because one of the wonderful things about playing the gong in public is we don't usually get stage fright, because after all, you hit the gong, a baby can do it, and it's woo-hoo. But sometimes when you get up to sing a song, or to recite a poem, or to in any way exaggerate the sixth chakra of the sending that out like that, we can, in our lives, be misunderstood, maybe be egotistic, maybe being narrow, maybe this, maybe have opinion. So that is always kind of shaky ground. So we need to conquer that shaky ground part of it too, and go where you wouldn't have dared to go before.
I'm going to pull up on the screen to share. There we go. All right. Just give me a moment, and I'd like to share some of the just basics. Like, we'll just review basics for 5 minutes, and then that way we can kind of platform from there, so you'll have an understanding of your own further studies in these areas, or if you're going to be joining us for the 6 weeks, or you want to go online. All of it is available. So one moment. I would like you to talk about what is pi and what is Euler's constant. Why are those irrational numbers interesting to play on the gong?
Why? We have a whole list. But you're going to join with us, and we're going to show all these lists of sort of popular irrational fractions that the scientists use and mathematicians use, and we're going to turn them into music. I think one of the things that you can do right away when you're, look at that, woohoo, where did that come from? Oh, summation tone series. Oh, that's a nice one. Yeah, you see, so it's like, there's the fundamental note, that's your and the first octave would be the jumping and then we have all the way up. But as you add tones together like that, you get closer and closer to the mysterious 1.6180 irrational fraction goes on forever. And but also we have other, we call them constants as well, to explore, because I think maybe once we begin to set up these parameters of our consciousness as we play, that the guru will be able to speak through you more in a more relaxed way, so that when you go up in front of people, that you'll be able to share with them in that sense of the word as well. So actually, we do a lot like when we do Kundalini Yoga, of course, which is that we have a process that we follow, which seems to work very well. You know, we begin to stretch and and we control the breathing, and then we have a mantra, and then we learn how to do the mantra or the affirmation in three different levels. And the fourth level is, of course, is what we practice when we play the gong, because we're listening and let it come from the great ocean of Om. And we learn different little things. I learn so much whenever I play the gong with other people. I love it so much, because I'm always looking to learn something new, and to be able to enjoy other people's chi is something that's a gong blessing to me. Okay, there's a symbol of the phi, and this is it was found on a piece of rock or something way back when, and we've been trying to figure out what it's for, but it really is for taking it to a new level. And the triangle parts of it here are called information coming from the outside. So it's just, I just read it. I've got books on it. I just love to open them up and say, aha. I think maybe we become more dilettantes as we get older, I think. We could just be, and here, and you have your library, all these favorite books that you open up just so that your monkey mind can get an aha here and an aha there. It becomes so important. So that is what we're delivering to people. So this is that particular pattern. Now, that's only to 9, but what about your astrological chart? That's 12, isn't it? So Aries, Pisces. So I remember Yogi Bhajan, when he first showed me how he divides it up into 12 parts. This is another sort of looking into the magic and seeing this, and then all of a sudden, everything sort of fits into that numerology. This is an important thing. Well, how do you activate and speed up other people's consciousness? It's a mystery, of course, but it would be that every time that you find something new, pass it on right away. And if you're lucky enough to have a place to pass it on to, then it makes it even better. So this is so learning about playing on that sheet music, but we also play with 12, the astrological 12 as well. But this has such a mystery to it. Okay. We have a low battery. I have to close.
Just hit close.
Yeah. I have to close that. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, here, look at this here. Okay. So look, I don't want to give you the whole course in 1 hour, but at least it whets your appetite of how to apply the
Recording in progress.
how you apply the notes to the numbers. That's a very interesting thing. Okay, is that it? It's 5 o'clock. Some people shared. Anything you want to say? We don't have anybody to help here. She's still, there she is.
I was trying to add in some links and
okay, go ahead.
resources that they can explore this further, etc.
I'm running out of juice, so
I
I
have a
just
question
stop.
about the keyboard.
Caitlin has a question about the keyboard. Yes, Caitlin, do you want to ask the question? Unmute yourself.
Hi. So you had mentioned online in the description of the course, we need a keyboard. I have an app on my phone that has a keyboard. Can I use that? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and there's
I'll link it.
free links and free resources on computers as well for a PC or a laptop. You don't need to have one. It's nice because, I mean, if you're a textual type of person and you want that, but you don't need it.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions?
I hope I haven't depressed you a little bit. For me, it's such an exciting adventure. And if we can just spread that exciting adventure to more and more and more and more people, then perhaps we'll have a chance of turning on. We have Gong masters now in all these countries. We have the first day of world peace that we have been promoting for a long time now, the full moon of May of 2025. And so in the meantime, as we get people together, it's really working towards a world that works together each time that we do it. So there's the close to home, and then there's the larger embrace.
You did ask the question, does everyone have a gong?
Yeah.
Yes, okay, good.
Right.
I was just gonna say, I'm not sure about an app yet, though I would love to develop an app so you wouldn't have to buy your gong either. That was just a joke for Caitlin, but that's okay. So wonderful. So you have your gong, you have either your keyboard or your virtual keyboard. You're ready to go next week. Colt, Prashanti told me you were coming. It's nice to see your face. People are excited to be back gonging away with Don.
Oh yeah, and we'll start you. So you'll have your gong available if you have a gong at the time. If you don't have a gong, it's okay.
In terms of where we'd love you to kind of jump off and dive into this world of playing by the numbers, the homework, we like to call it, for this week would be if you take your gong, and you can just use Post-its. These stickers that I'm using, I got on Amazon during COVID. It's like less than $10, and they are reusable. So they're not real stickers. They come on and off, and they're not going to destroy my gong. I suggest that. But you can also definitely just grab a little pad of Post-its, pull up the Enneagram template, put that on your gong, you know, tonight, tomorrow, this
Listen, I
morning.
just wanted to add, see, I don't draw lines, too many lines, but bowls are gongs. They're called bowl gongs. And the same mathematics can apply on playing bowls as well. So we'll include that with it as well. And who plays a modern instrument like a piccolo or a flute or anybody?
Flute, Native American flute, clarinet.
Okay, try harmonica. I love to play the harmonica when I'm playing the gong. Just try it and do, because you can do no wrong with the harmonica. That's why they call it no harmonica, no harm done. You can get up there and just improvise and make any note you want to and play around and use that as your instrument. Because after all, you only have one hand playing the gong, the other one you can hold.
What about the mudras?
That would be the harmonica mudra.
Okay. We will get into mudras as well in the next few sessions. So my suggestion is to take your Post-it, place your template of the Enneagram, and you can just start by playing with numbers. So it could be, you could play your phone number, you could play your date of birth, you can think about a loved one and play their number or date of birth. And then my suggestion is to move into something that isn't irrational, that doesn't go on forever and never, never. If you want, you can jump into that current. But start with the rainbow bridge sequence and the hidden trine. And I mean, we've had people who like kind of just go into this realm and do it for hours. The rainbow bridge, I wrote all that in the chat. Did you guys see it in the chat? Yes? Awesome. Okay. Taking the 7 colors of the rainbow, dividing all the oneness by that number, you're going to have a reoccurring 142,857, 142,857. And that fraction that decimal point just goes on and on with that repeating sequence. So you can try playing the rainbow bridge. It's a really interesting, inspiring practice. Also playing the 369 and all those variations of 963, 639, the different variations that you can create using those hidden trines.
All right. So there's a lot to learn. And telephonics and telepathy is something that just develops naturally. In other words, if I'm playing the gong and I'm playing your telephone number on the gong and thinking of you because I have your photograph pasted on the stand or on the gong, so I'm looking at you, and now I'm hitting your dial up on your phone like this as well. So we can do a lot of experimentation in that regard as well.
So Integral Yoga Institute of New York is hosting or presenting this 6-session series. So if you're interested, you can go and register for the course through them. We look forward to seeing all the registered participants next Tuesday. Excited to go on this adventure with you all. So we're going to wish you well. And this recording will be posted for if you want to rewatch it after you do your delving into all that research on the 5-Pi Enneagram. And we look forward to the next time we meet again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, that was all right, huh? We'll see you down the road.
Yes.
All right.